The maple cabinet stood exactly where Jack had left it, tucked in the corner of his workshop behind his lathe. 30 years of sawdust had settled into its grain, but the brass hardware still gleamed dully in the afternoon light filtering through the workshop windows. "Do you want help cleaning out the shop, Mom?" my son Michael asked from the doorway, looking so much like his father it made my heart ache. "Not today," I said, running my fingers over the cabinet's smooth surface. "I'm just remembering." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Dad's Saturday sanctuary." That's what we'd always called it, Jack's sanctuary. Every Saturday for 30 years, he'd disappear into this workshop, emerging only for meals and the occasional supply run. I'd never minded. Every marriage needs its spaces, its small privacies. Besides the beautiful pieces he crafted, rocking chairs, jewelry boxes, picture frames more than justified his time here. But now, 2 weeks after his funeral, I couldn't stop thinking about his last words. Not "I love you" or "goodbye," but "remember the old maple cabinet." Then that mysterious smile, peaceful despite the pain, before he slipped away. "You sure you'll be okay?" Michael asked. "I'm fine, honey. Go home to Jenny and the kids." After he left, I sank onto Jack's old workbench stool, surrounded by the tools and machines he loved so much. The workshop smelled of him, wood shavings, machine oil, and that particular mix of cedar and pine that always clung to his clothes. The cabinet had been here since we bought the house in 1993. Jack installed it himself, claiming it was perfect for storing his finishing supplies. But in 30 years of marriage, I'd never seen him open it. Never seen him so much as touch it. Remember the old maple cabinet. My hands trembled as I reached for the brass handle. Locked, of course. I'd known it would be. The key had to be here somewhere. Jack was methodical about his workshop, everything in its place. I started with his main toolbox, then his desk drawers, then the pegboard where he hung his everyday tools. Nothing. The sun was setting when I finally found it, a small brass key taped to the underside of his workbench, right where he'd always sat. My throat tightened. He kept it closed all these years, within arm's reach every Saturday. The key slid into the lock smoothly, as if it had been regularly oiled. One turn, and the door swung open with a soft creak. Inside wasn't what I expected. No finishing supplies, no tools. Just hundreds of leather-bound notebooks, each dated and numbered, filling every shelf. With shaking hands, I pulled out the first one, dated 1993, the year we bought the house. Jack's familiar handwriting filled every page. "My dearest Elizabeth, today I started something I should have begun years ago. You're in the kitchen right now, making dinner, probably wondering why I'm spending so long organizing my new workshop. The truth is, I'm writing this first letter to you. I've never been good with words, not spoken ones anyway. When I try to tell you how much I love you, how you make every day brighter just by being in it, I fumble and stutter, and never say it right. So I decided to write it instead. Every Saturday, while you think I'm just woodworking, I'll write down everything I want to tell you but can't seem to say out loud. Every moment I fall in love with you again. Every time you make me smile. Every reason you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Someday, when I'm gone, you'll find these letters. And finally, you'll know everything I kept in my heart." Tears blurred my vision as I opened another notebook, this one from 1997. "Sweetheart, today you didn't even realize what you did, but I'll never forget it. Michael was sick with the flu, and you've been up all night with him. You looked exhausted, hair a mess, wearing that old blue robe with the coffee stain. I was heading to the workshop when you called me back, just to straighten my collar and give me a kiss. 'You're a wonderful father,' you said, then went right back to caring for our son. That's who you are, always thinking of others, always giving love so freely. Even at your most tired, you make sure everyone else feels cared for. I wish I could tell you how much that means to me, how watching you love our son makes me fall in love with you all over again. Maybe someday I'll find the words. Until then, I'll write them here." Another notebook, 2006. "My love. Sarah brought home her first boyfriend today. You were so gracious, so welcoming, while I sat there trying not to glare at the boy who might someday take my little girl away. After dinner, you found me in the workshop pretending to sand a table leg. You didn't say anything about my obvious discomfort, just hugged me from behind and said, 'She'll always be your baby girl.' How do you always know exactly what I need to hear? 30 years together, and you still amaze me with your intuition, your kindness, your wisdom. I love you more today than yesterday, less than tomorrow. Notebook after notebook, year after year. Every Saturday for 3 decades, Jack had sat in this workshop pouring his heart onto these pages. Every love note he couldn't speak, every proud parent moment, every small joy and quiet triumph of our marriage, all carefully preserved in his neat handwriting. 2015. Elizabeth, you won't believe what you did today. You were gardening, covered in dirt, cursing at the weeds that keep invading your tomato plants. Your hat was crooked, there was soil on your nose, and you looked absolutely beautiful. I watched you from the workshop window, and suddenly I was 25 again, seeing you for the first time at that garden center. You were explaining different soil types to an elderly customer, so passionate about something most people would find mundane. That's why I fell in love with first, your ability to find joy and beauty in ordinary things. You've taught that to our children too. Sarah's art, Michael's music, they got that from you, that gift of seeing wonder in the everyday world. I should tell you this. I want to. But even after all these years, the words stick in my throat. So I'll write them here instead, adding to this collection of everything I wish I could say out loud. 2020. My darling Elizabeth, the doctor's news wasn't good today. 6 months, maybe a year with treatment. I haven't told you yet. I can't bear to see the pain it will bring to your eyes. But sitting here in my workshop, surrounded by 30 years of my written heart, I'm not afraid. I've lived a life full of love, raised 2 beautiful children with the most amazing woman I have ever known, and documented every precious moment in these pages. I'll tell you about the diagnosis tomorrow. It will be hard, but we'll face it together, like we faced everything else. And while the treatment gives us whatever time it can, I'll keep writing. Every Saturday, every moment I can steal, adding to this testament of a love too big for spoken words. And when I'm gone, you'll find these letters. You'll know that every Saturday I spent in here wasn't just about woodworking. It was about loving you, about trying to capture in words how you've made my life a masterpiece. I hope you'll understand then why I always came out of the workshop smiling. How could I not smile, spending hours writing about the joy you've brought to my life? The most recent notebook, dated just 3 weeks ago. My eternal love. The doctors say this is my last week. The pain is getting worse, but I don't mind it much. Not when I can still hold your hand, still see your smile, still hear you telling me to fight, even though we both know it's time to let go. I've filled this cabinet with 30 years of love letters. Every Saturday was a gift, not just the time to write, but the life you gave me to write about. Every page holds a piece of my heart, every word a testament to the magnificent life we built together. When you find these letters, remember that I died a happy man. How could I not be happy, having loved and been loved by you? Tell the children I'll miss them. Tell them to love deeply and speak their hearts. Don't wait like their father did, writing words in secret that should have been said out loud. And Elizabeth, my wonderful Elizabeth, know that I'll love you forever. Every letter in this cabinet is proof of that love, a love that grew stronger every day, every year, every decade we shared. Remember the old maple cabinet. Remember me. Forever yours, Jack. I sat on the workshop floor, surrounded by scattered notebooks as the sun set and shadows lengthened. 30 years of Saturdays. 30 years of love letters. 30 years of Jack's heart waiting patiently in this cabinet for me to find it. Now I understood his final smile. He wasn't leaving me with just memories. He was leaving me with his words, finally spoken through these pages. Every Saturday hadn't been about escape or solitude. It had been about love, about a man trying to capture in writing what his heart felt too deeply to say aloud. The workshop didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full of Jack's presence, his love, his words. And though my tears fell on the pages, I was smiling too. Because every Saturday for the rest of my life, I could come here and read another letter. I could discover another moment when my husband fell in love with me all over again. I could hear his voice in these pages, feel his love in every carefully written word. Jack's last gift wasn't just these letters. It was the understanding that love doesn't end with death. It lives on in memories, in written words, in workshop cabinets filled with 30 years of Saturdays. The next morning, I called Sarah and Michael. They needed to see this, to understand their father's hidden legacy. They arrived together, Sarah with her artist portfolio under her arm, Michael carrying his guitar case, neither wanting to come empty-handed to their father's sanctuary. "Mom, Sarah's voice caught when she saw the open cabinet, notebooks spread across Jack's workbench. What is all this? I handed them each a notebook. Your father's real Saturday project. They read in silence, occasionally wiping tears or sharing watery smiles. Sarah found an entry from her first art show. Elizabeth. Our daughter stood in that gallery today, trying so hard to look composed while people viewed her paintings. She has your quiet strength, your ability to pour heart into creation. I watched her explain her work to visitors, and I saw you in every gesture, every passionate description. When she won first prize, she ran straight to you for a hug. I stood back, camera in hand, pretending to take pictures while fighting back tears. Our little girl is becoming an artist just like her mother is an artist, in the garden, in the kitchen, in making our house a home. I should tell her how proud I am. The words are there, but my throat closes up every time I try. So I'll write them here, in this Saturday sanctuary, and hope that someday she'll understand that every proud smile, every awkward pat on the shoulder, held volumes of love I couldn't speak. Michael found his own story from the day he quit his corporate job to pursue music. My love. Michael came to me in the workshop today, terrified to tell me he's leaving his safe career to follow his dreams. He expected disappointment, arguments, practical concerns. Instead, I thought of you. I thought of how you supported me when I wanted to build custom furniture instead of taking my father's business offer. How you believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. So I told our son the only thing that mattered, be happy. I saw the relief in his eyes, the same relief I felt when you said those words to me 20 years ago. He gets his courage from you, Elizabeth. The courage to choose happiness over security, passion over practicality. Thank you for teaching our children that lesson by example. Sarah touched the brass hardware on the cabinet. Every Saturday, all those years we thought he was just avoiding us. He wasn't avoiding, I said softly. He was preserving. Every moment, every memory. Michael picked up another notebook. Listen to this one. Elizabeth. Today Sarah asked why I spent so much time in the workshop. You smiled and said, everyone needs a place to think. You've always understood that, always given me this space without resentment or questioning. What you didn't know was that I spent most of that time thinking about you, about our family, about how lucky I am to have this life we've built. The children think I'm distant, too busy with my woodworking to talk. Someday they'll find these letters and know that every moment I spent here was about loving them, loving you, trying to find words for feelings too big for speech. Sarah wiped her eyes. I always wished he'd talk more, tell us what he was thinking. And all along, he was telling us, I finished. Just not in the way we expected. We spent the day in the workshop, reading random entries, sharing memories. Sarah sketched her father's beloved tools while Michael softly strummed his guitar, composing a melody that somehow captured both sadness and celebration. Mom, Sarah said suddenly, we should do something with these. Not publish them. They're too personal. But maybe an art installation, Michael suggested. Sarah's paintings, my music, Dad's words. A tribute, Sarah nodded. To show how love finds its own language. I touched one of Jack's notebooks, thinking of all the Saturdays that have filled these pages. He'd like that, turning his private words into something beautiful for others to see. Later, after the children left, I sat alone in the workshop as evening fell. I opened a notebook at random. My dearest Elizabeth, watched you reading in the garden today, autumn light in your hair. 30 years of marriage and still the sight of you takes my breath away. I made a small box in the workshop today, maple, like this cabinet. Inside I've placed a single page from each year of these letters. When you find them, there'll be a map of our love, a journey through the life we shared. The box is hidden where we first danced at our wedding reception. Remember? By the old oak tree, while everyone else was inside. Just you and me, no music except what we hummed together. That oak still stands in our backyard. Dig gently, my love. Forever yours, Jack. My hands trembled as I grabbed a garden trowel. The old oak tree stood silhouetted against the sunset as I approached. How many times had I passed it, never knowing what lay beneath? The box was exactly where he said, wrapped carefully in waterproof material. Inside, 30 pages, one from each year of our marriage. And beneath them, a final note. Elizabeth. If you're reading this, you found my letters and understood why I smiled at the end. But there's one last thing you should know. In all these years of writing, I never once wrote the words goodbye, because love like ours doesn't end. It just finds new ways to speak. Listen for me in the workshop tools you'll learn to use. Yes, you will. I've left instructions in the blue folder on my desk. Look for me in the garden when morning light hits the roses. Feel me in the music Michael plays and the art Sarah creates. Most of all, know that every Saturday I spent writing in that maple cabinet was a celebration of you, of us, of the magnificent life you gave me. I love you, Elizabeth. Always have, always will. Jack. I sat under the oak tree, holding his last message, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere in the house, I could hear Sarah and Michael, who had apparently returned, Sarah's brushes swishing on canvas, Michael's guitar strings weaving melody with memory. Tomorrow, I would open the blue folder and begin learning the tools Jack had loved. I would turn his workshop into a new kind of sanctuary, not just for writing, but for creating, for remembering, for celebrating a love that found its voice in 30 years of Saturdays. A year after finding Jack's letters, his workshop has transformed. Sarah's paintings of Jack's tools and hands at work hang on one wall, while Michael's recorded compositions, songs inspired by his father's written words, play softly from hidden speakers. The maple cabinet remains in its corner, but now it's flanked by my own workbench. Jack's blue folder taught me well. My first projects were clumsy, splintered wood, and uneven joints, but gradually, my hands learned what his always knew, how to coax beauty from raw lumber. Today, I finished my first real piece, a small jewelry box made from maple, with brass hardware that matches the cabinet. Inside, I've placed one of Jack's letters, laminated to preserve his handwriting. It's the first of what will become a series, each box a tiny treasure chest holding fragments of our love story. Mom? Sarah stands in the doorway, paint smudge on her cheek. The gallery called. They want to do the installation next month. We're calling it Saturday Sanctuary, a collaboration between father and children, words and music and art. Sarah has painted scenes from Jack's letters onto reclaimed wood. Michael has composed a suite of music that visitors will hear as they walk through the space. And at the center, protected in glass cases, is a selection of Jack's letters that we chose together. Words that speak of universal love rather than private moments. Dad would have hated all the attention, Michael says, joining us with his ever-present guitar. No, I correct him gently. He would have hidden in his workshop and pretended to hate it, but he would have been proud. I run my fingers over the jewelry box I just completed. The finish isn't perfect. Jack would have seen a dozen flaws I missed, but it's solid, honest work. Like his letters. Maybe not polished poetry, but true and strong and built to last. I found something else, I tell them, opening my work apron pocket, behind the cabinet when I moved it to clean. It's a single piece of paper, dated the week before he died. My dear ones, if you're reading this, you found my letters and made something beautiful from them. I knew you would. Creativity runs in our blood. Elizabeth's gardens, Sarah's art, Michael's music, even my humble woodworking. But the greatest creation we ever made was this family. Every Saturday I wrote about love. Now you're teaching me that love writes back, in paintings and songs, in newly carved wood and fresh planted flowers. Keep creating, keep loving, keep finding new ways to tell the old stories. And when you're in this workshop, listen carefully. You might hear me humming along. Love always, Dad/Jack. Sarah wipes her eyes, leaving a streak of paint on her sleeve. Michael strums a quiet chord that somehow sounds like memory. I look around the workshop, our workshop now. Jack's presence lives in every tool, every scratch on the workbench, every mote of dust dancing in the afternoon light. But it's not a shrine to the past. It's a living space where grief has slowly transformed into creation, where loss has become inspiration. Come on, I tell our children. Help me move these sawhorses. I want to try building a rocking chair. As we work together in the Saturday sunshine, I swear I can hear Jack humming in the rasp of the saw, in the tap of the hammer, in our quiet laughter as I mess up yet another dovetail joint. Love writes back, he said. In this workshop, with our children creating beauty from memory and wood and paint and music, I'm finally writing my response to 30 years of Saturday letters. I think he can hear it. I know he's smiling.